It's low spec time. Let me paint you a picture.
The unprecedented pandemic, the surge in demand for consumer electronics, and the extremely complex supply chain issues for all semiconductors has no end in sight. Entry-level computer components and new game consoles are so rare that I saw a PlayStation 5 in a store once, and I felt like I had seen a cryptid.
So what do? We adapt.
E-waste, or rather the question of what the hell do we do with technology as it becomes outdated, is a growing concern as the world becomes more technologically centered. This goes double for people living in deeply dense and expensive cities, and as someone currently living in a tiny apartment in one of the densest districts in Europe, I get it. Space is at a premium. But some person's trash can be someone else's treasure, and someone was about to throw this entire computer right into a bin. Instead, this ended up in my hands. So let's start with why. Why will anyone want to throw a computer like this away? It's probably old and slow, you might be muttering to yourself. This is a 2011 CPU with only 2 cores. It struggles badly on any relatively modern game, and it will be difficult to make it work with anything very new. Or so you think. Brought to you by Skillshare. For a desktop computer, at a minimum you need a CPU, a GPU of some sort, some RAM, some form of storage, a power supply, and a motherboard that connects them all. Additionally, it is recommended to put it in a case, although mileage on that point might vary. The case on this computer is a pretty standard cheap home office case with what seems to also be a disk reader and an SD card reader. Wow, that might be useful. Is it trash? Nah. The power supply is going to be controversial. I have never heard of B-Move Home before. It seems to be a wholesale supplier for this sort of pre-built, but the problem with a power supply is that if it fails and it doesn't have proper security measures, it can take other parts of the computer with it, which has happened to me before, more than once. But it does have a surprisingly high capacity. Oh, one other thing, even though I have made my best efforts to clean it, it makes a weird noise when I turn it on. Hold on. There, that fixes it. For RAM, it has a weirdly thin stick of 4GB of DDR3 RAM, which is fine, but we're going to have to add some to give it a chance. So, trash? Nope. Hard drive. Oh wow, it has a 1TB mechanical hard drive, which is way more than I expected. This right here is likely the biggest culprit for this computer's trash status. For those wondering what do I mean, in very general terms, these days you can buy hard drive storage as a mechanical drive or a solid state drive. Mechanical hard drives are cheaper, but their names comes from the fact that they literally store data in moving disks, so they can be quite slow. Solid state drives are just basically memory chips on a board, so they tend to be much faster but more expensive. Now the tricky thing here is that current supported versions of Windows increasingly assume that you have a faster solid-state drive, as, at least before the world went into hard mode, the price of these faster drives was on the way down. Try an updated Windows 10 installed in most mechanical hard drives out there, and if you're doing anything while like downloading a game or some other disk-intensive task, it will get very unresponsive. And then people can easily assume the computer is just slow and throw it away. However, progressively harder does not mean impossible, and these are desperate times. So, is this trash? Nope. Against my better judgment, I'm going to keep using this as the only drive. Motherboard, one of the most limiting factors for upgrading a PC. This is a Gigabyte motherboard from 2012 with a CPU socket that has been out of use for a while, and it is going to be the main limiter of what we can do. So, is this trash? Nope. We just have to make the best out of it. And this leaves us with a CPU and GPU, which in this computer is the same, a 2-core 4-threads i3 with Intel HD Graphics 2000. Yeah, this is going to be a problem. Unless you spend way too much time looking into component benchmarks like a freaking nerd, it is very hard to tell at a glance what a CPU can do or which one is better. But as a general rule of thumb, newer core architectures are faster and more cores can do more at the same time. You can still get away with just 2 cores if you're using a relatively modern architecture. And I know some people will fight me on this in comments, but I still think so. But just 2 cores from an architecture Intel did decades ago? That's not gonna cut it. And besides, the only GPU this computer has access to is a very old type of integrated graphics, and we cannot really get a lot out of that. So, can I spend any money on this project?
Or? Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
AliExpress.com. Since 2010, this Chinese e-commerce website connects independent sellers in China to the rest of the world in an economic frenzy of low prices, a mixture of both fascinating and suspicious products, all packaged in a way that might or might not violate import laws in your country. AliExpress has long been an adventurous way to get access to, among other things, cheap electronics of questionable quality that are sent by regular mail. So, I hope you trust your country's mail system. Having grown in South America, I know that that's not something you can take for granted. Not to mention that it can be taxed on entry to your country, and it can take a long time for things to arrive at your country from China. But if you're willing to navigate its tricky waters, there are some interesting things to discover. For example, search for 4 GB of DDR3 RAM, sort by cheapest, and you end up with this, a single stick of not particularly fast RAM. But that only leaves me with a meager 20 euros for the CPU. That's the price this existing i3 already sells for in the second-hand market, so how in the world are we going to find something better? The answer comes back to e-waste. A fascinating mini-industry that flourished in AliExpress is that of component recycling. Xeon is the name Intel gives its tier of server and workstation CPUs that often offer extra functionality and more cores than consumer CPUs of the time for a hefty premium. But as companies upgrade their servers and workstations, they dump all their old technology into a recycling industry that occasionally gets them and sells them for a fraction of their price in AliExpress. I have made videos about this before. Some companies make new motherboards from recycled parts specifically for this sort of use. But that brings an interesting opportunity today. Some Xeons use fancy expensive motherboard sockets to separate them from peasants, but in the past, Xeons were manufactured for the very socket on this computer. Bingo! Search AliExpress for Xeons on that socket, filter for the 20 euros that we have left, and this CPU shows up. We move one architecture up, so every core should be faster, and we now have 4 of them. This might have been some company's trash, but for us, it's a lightsaber. A giant RGB gaming PC, this is not, but now it has a fighting chance. All it needs is the final touch. There it is. So what can we play now? Fuck! This is a Radeon 5850. This 2009 graphics card was saved from the scrap pile by a fan. This GPU is old, I'm not going to lie, but once I figured out the complicated part of how to wire it to a power supply that does not have GPU connectors, it was working. But let's be honest, who cares about Counter-Strike? That's a dead game, who even plays that? Let's play something modern. Let's try... Ah fuck, I forgot this GPU is too old to support Vulkan. Alright, how about...
Resident Evil.
Wait, it doesn't support DirectX 12 either? I should have looked this up before.
Hey Alex, why don't you try some older games, huh? Why are you always trying new stuff that was clearly not made for this?
This is a LowSpecGamer. This is a tremendously unideal game to test for a variety of reasons. It has no magical resolution scaling options, so I had to play on some Switch-like resolutions, and being a multiplayer shooter, it means unstable and shaky frame rates actually put you in a disadvantage against other players. Run, Matt, run!
Run away! Gotta go!
And yet something very interesting, something I would almost call magical happened. Yeah, abort, abort.
Which way?
There.
Okay.
Oh no! Oh no!
Did I do good? Am I jump mastering good? Did I win? Did we win the game?
I played this game while on a stream with friends, and just minutes in, I forgot I was testing this computer for a video. I even forgot I was streaming.
Is that
We
a
don't have
vehicle?
weapons.
Since when
Yeah,
does this
and
game
I don't
have
know how
vehicles?
to ride this, so...
Oh my god! When did this game get
yeah.
vehicles?
Let's go! I don't know how to ride this. It's
No,
my
it's great.
first time using it.
We are relying on you.
Oh god.
No pressure.
People
Oh,
there- I trust you completely.
My personal performance in fights was not great, and I could feel the game freezing at times, but I was having fun.
There's a lot of
What
things
happens
here.
if we take the car into the portal?
Do you want to try it?
Yes.
Okay, go.
Okay.
Go for it. Science! Aw, boo.
Maybe I had this whole thing wrong all along. Maybe looking at benchmarks and architectures for parts I was using, I had forgotten what I did this. Why would anyone do this? Because I just wanted to have fun with my friends. And compared to the option of not being able to play the game at all, this is absolutely outstanding. And this is something you can only do in a platform like this, where you can slap together some e-waste and miraculously make it work on a game. So, this trash computer, this piece of work that makes alarming noises every time I turn it on, it's alright. It got me just enough to the point that I was able to feel the company of my friends for a few hours. And that's priceless.
Something that I think people don't speak about often is games that are designed for like silhouetting and clarity. So they're readable no matter the resolution, no matter the settings. And Apex has its like silhouetting and clarity just right. Are those enemies?
Yep.
In fact, I was so distracted that it was the chat that noticed that my tweak for my Apex Legends video to disable shadows did not apply correctly, and while fixing that did help a little bit, it was still not an ideal experience. Also, holy scene change, where am I? Well, I'm in between apartments because my power supply burned my office down. Hopefully you might have noticed at this point that there has been some changes to increase the production values of things happening here around the channel. This is part of a commitment I made this year to pretty much elevate the level of what I'm doing because I really wanted to feel satisfied by the things that I was putting out. And a big part of that has been reading a lot of production books, doing a lot of tutorials and taking a lot of classes. Such as this class by MKHPD on YouTube video making that led me to completely reshape my approach to making videos. Seriously, take that class, then go back and rewatch this video and you're going to notice exactly what I'm talking about. And where can you watch these classes? Skillshare, this video sponsor. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators and an absolutely fantastic tool for any internet creative. For example, since I have been spending way too much time on Twitter and reading YouTube comments, next on my list of classes to take is The Ultimate Self-Care Playbook by Jonathan Bagness. And if you're as horrified as you should be about the fact that I just use a small personal mental health crisis for an ad, might I recommend Storytelling for Leaders by Keith Yamashita. It's an excellent guide on how to craft brand marketing storytelling. Skillshare is tuned specifically for learning, so there's no ads, they're always releasing new classes. Hey, I did a class on the general method that I utilize for videos like the Apex Legends videos, and to know which things to tweak in a game. And the good news is that you can try this for free. The first 1,000 people to use my link not only get 15 days of free Skillshare, but if you do it before October gets here, you get upgraded to a full month. So, what are you waiting for? Thank you for watching, and thank you to Skillshare for supporting online creators everywhere.